It's time for Show Me the Franchise.
With Thomas and Frederick. With Thomas and Frederick.
It's time for Show Me the Franchise.
With Thomas and Frederick. With Thomas and Frederick.
Welcome to Show Me the Franchise, the podcast that talks about franchises of all shapes, sizes, backgrounds, genres, and types. I'm one of your hosts, Tom Stadler, here with Fred Vern Deacon.
Just pulling from that deep well you got.
I feel like I've been odd the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, I was also thinking when you do your genres, the types, you're kind of dipping into the content this week almost.
Oh.
There's almost like a little bit of a in there that's kind of on topic for us.
Are you trying to say I'm getting deep in my well here, Fred?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm. See, this is what will be interesting to talk about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, I have long been familiar with our topic, but had never seen any of the movies in their entirety until the day before this recording. Fred, of course, we are talking about the Ernest movies, and we have a very special guest this week to join us and tell us all about Ernest. Mike Kauth has joined us. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about Ernest. I really appreciate you guys letting me. I was saying before, like, I always feel guilty anytime I start talking about Ernest. It's like, if it comes up, I can't help it. I'm off for an hour and a half just talking because I find the film's interesting. But more so Jim Varney, like his talents, his career. I feel like he's such an underrated performer. And that kind of links to the success of Ernest. It being so big put him in such an interesting box as an actor. But for me watching it, just the talent that he has is so wild. So I'm excited to dig into it with you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for being here. And
pleasure.
certainly do not feel bad about talking about Ernest today. This is your chance to just go
Right.
off about
This is where that's allowed, and that's like the premise of the pod almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it's, like I said, I did kind of grow up around these movies. I feel, Ernest is kind of like a small town Pee-wee, so it's kind of right up my alley,
You mean that you and Ernest are both from a small town?
I like to think so. I was just thinking watching this, I was like, yeah, this is like, Pee-wee, but for, people like me who had to go a little bit further to go to Walmart, I kind of was getting it a little bit. It was like Ernest, but I hadn't had a cigarette yet, like early mornings Ernest. But I think this will be a good episode for you to really take the reins because you seem to have the most knowledge, but we're both very aware.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your history, though, with Mr. Ernest. Is it P. Howell?
P. Worrell. Ernest
Worrell.
P. Worrell. Yeah.
I knew that.
See, I mean, it's just the letters are jumbling in my brain.
This was like, as I've listened to your podcast, I always thought if I ever get to be on it, we have to talk Ernest. Because ever since I remember it was like a snowstorm and my mom and I went up to the local liquor store, which rented VHS tapes, and we went through the big snowstorm, got there and seen the VHS of Ernest Goes to Camp. Just sitting there. I didn't know anything about who Ernest was. And my mom was like, oh, I bet this is funny. So we take it. We're watching it. We actually walked to my grandma's house because she had the VCR. We did not own a VCR at that time. So we go there, we put it in, and immediately I just am laughing. I'm enjoying the movie. Ernest Goes to Camp is a nice introduction because it's easily the most grounded in reality of the movies. As they go on, they get a little crazier and crazier. And it's about him at a camp, so it's just the kids are there. So as a kid, you relate to the kids. But I realized as I got more and more into Ernest, it's he's just a human cartoon, watching the physical comedy and everything. So I got very obsessed very quickly. Once I saw that, and then Ernest Saves Christmas comes out, very into that. Love Christmas, love the movie. Even in fourth grade, I remember having to do like a book report presentation, and I asked the teacher, like, can I make a video? Because my book report was going to be me walking past the window talking to the camera like Ernest. And I got in trouble for this because I had a jean jacket that, Ernest wears the denim vest, doesn't wear a denim jacket.
Yeah.
So I got up early and cut the sleeves off my denim jacket.
Oh man.
And my mom and dad were not thrilled about that. And in third grade and fourth grade, because of Ernest, I would always wear a hat. Now, this was like a lime green and white striped hat.
Sure.
But because Ernest always wore a hat, I was like, I have to wear a hat. So he had quite a bit of influence,
And we should paint a picture for our audience, which they'll probably see this in our Instagram and other stories so far, but that you are fully decked out like Ernest right now. You have the vest, the hat, like the Canadian tuxedo like going on right now.
Indeed. And, that's one of those things about what's nice when you get to be an adult, right? It's just like, hey, I've always wanted to dress like Ernest. I'm going to search out the hat. I'm going to search out the vest. Because if I'm being really nerdy, which I am right now, like this is more sort of like kind of the color of it feels very Ernest Goes to Camp or like the commercials. Because like as it went on, those things like slightly change. Like that's unfortunately how deep I am in this. Like, what's the shade of denim vest?
Yeah, it's like the bat suit just gets more detailed. They've got more money to work with or less towards the end.
By Ernest Scared Stupid, he had nipples on the denim vest.
Well, also I feel with your outfit, I was looking at it and I feel like, 20 years ago, people might look and go, oh, that's Ernest. Now I feel this get up like you could go a show at the Cactus Club and like it would be you'd fit in.
It's funny you mentioned that, Fred, because like there was a couple Halloweens ago, I think it was Chipotle, I think, that if you were wearing a costume, you got a discount on a burrito. So I went there, waited in line, got there, and then they charged me full price. And I was like, oh, I'm wearing a costume. And they're like, what are you? Because like you said, they just thought like this guy's just wearing a normal outfit.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm Ernest. Okay.
They didn't, you didn't do like 5 minutes of bits for them, that would have been fun. I feel like I do see it though. You adjusted your hat earlier, and when you did your little hat adjust, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
we're getting some Ernest vibes going.
Yeah.
I couldn't help it. But yeah, it was, I was a fan through like elementary school. And then in high school, I don't know if you guys have anything like this where it's like, I kind of fell off a little bit because it seemed like not that cool, like Muppets and Looney Tunes, Ernest, the things I was really into. I was like, oh, this isn't like the cool thing to bring up. And then later in high school, getting into like, Monty Python and Mr. Show and all this comedy, I sort of drifted away from Ernest. And then as I personally got into performing and wanting to learn more and more about comedy and being able to do it, like I kind of came back around and started appreciating like just how talented Jim Varney was. And then, but because of that, I was like, oh, I need to tell everybody, I know about, because it does feel like you said, like the outfit, it feels like he's just kind of disappeared a little bit, like arguably very much on par with like a Pee Wee Herman at one point, but like Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman had more resonance on the pop culture.
Oh yeah. And I think even now people can tell you who Pee Wee is.
Right.
But I mean, I think Ernest we should talk about that though in a little bit, how much he has persevered.
Yeah.
It'd be curious to see it. Why I cut you off.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I really wish I remember the like podcast or interview, but you'll hear a lot of interviews with like actors who were kind of in the same like world as Jim Varney, and a lot of the times when you hear the Jim Varney story, it sounds like the coolest fucking dude ever. like he like kind of like complete opposite. Ernest is cool in his own way, but like the way they would talk about him and just like him and his music and all that stuff, it was a very different type of guy.
Right.
And I wish I remember what interview that was. It feels like a WTF thing for
Yeah.
sure. Like it
Yeah.
felt like something like that.
Yeah.
He started out hoping to be and wanting to be and doing Shakespeare. So he was like a Shakespearean trained actor.
Mhm.
And that's what he wanted to do, be a more, like he was a funny person, of course,
Yeah.
but his passion was acting and very much from what like I've read and heard in interviews, like a very good mimic, that he would go and had like this photographic memory that he would go and watch movies and then be able to like, do the monologues that he saw of like Peter O'Toole and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And the fun thing about that is like, later on in the Ernest world, like you see him doing impressions of Peter O'Toole and slipping some of that stuff in with the character of Ernest. So it's like he's using all his acting tools. It's just like in this heightened clown sense.
Yeah. Did you actually get to see any of the Ernest movies in theaters?
I did. Yeah.
Wow.
I saw 2 of them. I was really hoping to see Ernest Goes to Jail. I think I was in like 4th grade.
Mhm.
And I was just like, I don't know how you guys like. We didn't go to a ton of movies. Like
Mhm.
when I was real little, we did because you could go to like these really cheap kind of matinees. But like going to the movies was like a special occasion. And
Mhm.
so I got to see Ernest Scared Stupid. My
Yeah.
grandma took me. And what was great about that is like I loved that one. That's one of maybe my favorite. I'll talk about that later. We'll see. Maybe not. So my grandma took my sister and I was so excited. And my grandma thought it was the stupidest movie. And years later, anytime we were talking movies or something, she'd be like, "Oh, it's not Ernie does something dumb, is it?" I was like, "Oh, I'd get roasted by my grandma." I was like, "Oh man," but I got to see that one. Loved that in theaters.
Mhm.
And then I was super excited because Ernest Rides Again
Mhm.
was going to be in some theaters, but really limited release because, spoiler alert, like this is after Disney is done with Ernest. So this is the first one out of the gate and the last one to ever be in theaters.
Oh, wow.
So Mayfair, before the AMC, they had another, movie theater, and it was like, whoa, it's going to be there. And I convinced my mom and sister, let's go. It starts, there's like a Mr. Bill short before, and it's like, oh, that's funny. And then it starts, and the start of Ernest Rides Again is this epic song, and it's like, oh, this is gonna be great. And as an Ernest fan, I was so disappointed.
Oh, no.
Because the quality falls off. Like his performance is good, but it's him riding a cannon for like 45, 50 minutes. He gets caught on the. It's just like, oh, this gag is, like over. And
So the rides is
Yes.
really part of it.
oh yes.
Gotcha.
And again, I'm a big Ernest fan, big Jim Varney fan, but it's sort of, and there's 9 films, right? And I would say 4 of them good. And then there's 5 more, and I can find things to appreciate in all of them. But that was the first thing where it was just like, you love something, you love a franchise, and all of a sudden you see something, you're like, uh-oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
And I was at an age where you start to realize, because like in high school, you're kind of willing to be like, yeah, Night at the Roxbury was a good movie,
Oh,
because
sure.
it's just like, I just sat and watched it and it's in the theater, so it must be
Yeah.
good. And then you start to develop your tastes and everything. So yeah, I got to see 2 of them.
Okay. I mean, that's still pretty cool, though, especially how much you love Ernest. You got
Yeah.
to actually see those when they were released, because
Yeah.
it's like, if you missed the boat, it's like they're not doing a lot of re-releases recently. But you also, I mean, and we should divulge that you are a comedian now in the Milwaukee area over at Comedy Sports. Very funny. But how much did Ernest or Jim Varney inspire some of your comedy, even when you were first getting into now?
Yeah, it as a kid, it really did, because it really made me be more outgoing.
Sure.
Because like that's the crazy thing about Jim Varney, because like big fan of like the movies, but then going into like the commercials and realizing like the history of how this character came to be and everything. He's really, especially in the commercials, it's just him, and he's just
Yeah.
talking to the camera, and big expressions, silly gags, and all this stuff. And some of them are a little more subtle with some of the wordplay and stuff. So liking that, especially like the physical comedy. And middle school, elementary school, I was falling down and trying to get laughs in that way.
Sure.
And then as I got, like I said, like in high school, a little bit more refined or a little more edgy sense of humor working its way in and stuff. Like, I think if you saw me perform, you wouldn't be like, oh, he's a big Jim Varney fan. Because I do like to be a little more dry and everything. But just that ability to change into so many different characters that Jim Varney had. Like, I'm envious of that, and I always want to emulate like being able to be so like different in the way that his characters are approached, and just the confidence. Those sort of things, the energy of it is really appealing to me.
Yeah. And he definitely brings the energy. I mean, just watching one of them last night, it was like he goes on a run of just switching characters like every like 3 seconds, and I'm like, this is crazy. I don't even know what I'm watching, but
yeah, it kind of breaks your studious comedy brain when you watch it, because like I'm just starting like doing like level 3 teaching right now at Interchange, and so like, and that's not my approach to comedy, but I'm kind of inundated with that like thinking about it too much. And so when you watch it, I'm like, oh, he's got like 10 games going right now. And some of them like come back, some of them don't. And it's just like, it broke my brain, like because I've been thinking like that the past few weeks. But then it's like, it is kind of also, I said flip side of Pee Wee, and I know I just keep doing comparisons, but it's also very much kind of flip side of like the Rob Williams Genie thing a lot.
Oh, sure.
Because you talk about him pulling from Shakespeare, bigger sources. I mean, that's kind of how it was for me being like a 90s kid watching Aladdin. That's how I know about Jack Nicholson and all these people.
Oh, yeah.
And that's interesting that they both are these people kind of being these big, goofy
yeah,
characters, but they're pulling from these like things that are like their sensitive theater backgrounds.
Yeah, for sure. And I totally am with you on that front. I feel like Robin Williams was my exposure too, and like my way of like getting into comedy to begin with. It was like, oh yeah, just throw yourself out there, do something wild, try an impression, and now I just do too many. It's like,
yeah, I was very surprised. I assumed like Ernest was a thing for you. Not that I see you again in your comedy doing like Ernest style bits, but I think I just thought that would be something you had growing up.
It's weird because I feel like Ernest was just something that was always on the periphery, and I feel like you meet a lot of people, especially in the 90s, right? Where it's like you have these like certain types of movies, and it's like if you have access to that, like if your parents are a big fan of like a specific type of comedy or whatever, like that's what's in your house. So like in my house, it was a lot of like Bill Murray movies.
Oh, yeah.
Like we were raised on Bill Murray and like the 70s, like SNL cast, right? Or like the early 80s. And so like all of that was like textbook stuff, even though a lot of that was way too adult for me watching. My parents, I have a lot of questions about some of the stuff they had us watch. But yeah, I think, if you do have that exposure though, and I think it's kind of where you are when you grow up, and like what's even like on TV where you're at, or who are your friends that are watching what types of movies, right? And like, I mean, for a lot of us, I think Robin Williams was there, right? Because it's like he was just bigger than big. But there was also, I think Pee Wee Herman is a perfect like other vehicle for that. Of like, if you were exposed to Pee Wee, and I love Pee Wee's Big Adventure, but it's like then you know Pee Wee, and you have like this affection for him. And if you find him later in life, you're like my wife, she's like, he's creepy. Like, but don't badmouth my guy. So
it's so funny because it is like they're these man children, right?
Yeah.
And growing up, it's just like as a kid, you're like, oh, of course, this makes sense. And then when you do grow up and step back, especially like you said, you haven't. It's like, wait, how old is this person supposed to be?
Yeah. But I do think it's something that like, if you did have exposure to it, I could see that just being kind of part of your like your lexicon that you keep pulling from, right? And you do have a lot of affection. I could see this being like hilarious as a kid. And I guess I just didn't have a lot of people that I hung out with that were watching Ernest. So I just kind of feel like I missed it, but I always kind of knew who he was. I would catch snippets like on TV or like through other things. And
it's funny you mentioned that because like I never thought about it, but as you were saying that, I'm like, I really I felt like Ernest was my thing.
Sure.
You know, like it really felt like this is like a little secret that I have, like this comedy. Because as you're saying, I was like, oh yeah, my friends didn't watch Ernest. You
Sure.
know, my family didn't want to sit down and watch the movies with me. You know, so it was like something that felt very like unique to me.
Yeah.
Like I remember my dad. I didn't even realize Ernest Goes to Jail was out on VHS, right? Because you don't, as a kid, it's just like who knows. And he brought it home after work on a Friday. He was just like, "Oh, I got this for you."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I was just blown away. And we'd always like sit down, not always, but a lot of times Friday was like pizza and a movie. And I remember sitting down, putting it in, and I was the only one at the TV, you know.
Sure.
But it was just like they were happy, I was happy, but it did like feel like this special little hidden thing, you
Yeah.
know. So that's that. I had never thought about that before, because you're right. Like Ninja Turtles was huge for me because all my friends were into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So much of that does really influence. But for some reason, Ernest was like that little, like, oh, this guy's talking directly to me.
Yeah. But I do feel like there were a lot of these properties, and these are like, there's a type of movie that Ernest is encapsulating that I kind of missed, that I felt like was very present. Like maybe not like, these more lower budget movies that were easy to pop out. I think of something else that's like, you mentioned Ninja Turtles, which everybody knows, but there was also another like obviously a lot of live action ninja movies in the 90s. Do people remember Three Ninjas? Some people are like, yeah, that was my shit. And then other people are like, what the hell is that?
And then you have the people like Three Ninjas. What about Surf Ninjas?
Yeah.
Oh God, Rob Lowe, obviously he's doing great numbers right now. But
I don't know if you did this on purpose, but Three Ninjas, what is it? At High Noon.
yeah.
I knew to make a mountain.
Jim Varney's in that.
And yeah.
Jim Varney's the main villain.
Yes,
Is that
I
right?
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Wow. I definitely forgot about that.
Yeah. So it's just like, because, you didn't see him in a ton of stuff, but he was like little, because he always wanted to be a character actor. Like
Yeah.
that was like his dream. And it just so happened like the character he did became so huge. But throughout like the 80s and 90s, you see him taking these arguably like smaller roles because they were more character based and they were different from Ernest. So like the villain in a of course I'm gonna take that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it, and it's not just because 90s Toy Boy here. Pretty underrated vocal performance in Toy Story 1. I'm gonna say
Yeah.
he doesn't have like a lot to do, but he does really well with it.
Mhm.
I mean, his most persevering character probably outside of Ernest, right? Is Slinky Dog now.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Toy Story movies.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Yeah, and now it's like the Cajun guy from Waterboy who was
Yeah.
like a good friend. They were like good friends coming up in the comedy world now
Mhm.
is Slinky Dog because they have very similar voices.
Yeah.
Roy
Roy Clark? I
It's
think?
something like
Something,
Clark,
yeah.
something like Clark.
Clark
Bob
something,
Clark?
I
No. I know he's like Sean's dad on Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
For me though, Ernest, I feel really lived at the movie store because whether or not, and I did
Yes.
rent them
100%.
occasionally, I was definitely looking at those boxes.
Yeah.
And with my parents, well, mostly my mom, the rule was PG or lower.
Yeah.
But sometimes I do recall going for that Ernest box and getting kind of absolutely not. Whether or not it fell within the rating, which it did, it was more of like you're not watching that shit.
Yeah.
But I wanted to watch that shit. Like, that looked like a good time to me.
The actor you guys are thinking of is Blake Clark.
Blake
Clark. Yeah, Roy Clark, I think, is Hee Haw.
Oh, okay.
Which another connection to Hee Haw with Ernest is Gaylord Sartain, who is Bobby in the Chuck and Bobby duo. Another, like, he's someone else I think was really funny. And just, it's like you get into certain corners where it's just like, you can't really get out of, like, they see you as that comedy, you're over there. And he did break out later and do some, Gaylord Sartain did some more dramatic work and stuff. But the cool thing about like those Ernest movies were, to me, one of the cool things is how often you see like returning cast members and stuff. It's like, because say what you will, people have different opinions about like Adam Sandler's comedy and such, but
Sure.
the fact that he always brings his friends and stuff with him is pretty cool. And I like that, in the Ernest world, the people that you'll see in, the 13 episode kids show, Hey Vern, It's Ernest, make appearances in, Ernest Scared Stupid. And they use a lot of those same actors. So it's like, oh, you have this little community that you are all feeding off the Ernest buffet. So it's just probably that also made it hard to break out of that character, right? It's like, oh, okay, we gotta, you're supporting so many people with that. Sorry, that was a weird little.
Yeah.
It's also just more of like a monoculture back then.
Yeah.
Entertainment, I feel now a person can like break off. Like people can have these like comedic personas, but then like do like a 3-episode arc on NCIS or something like that where they're playing like a serial killer. Like I feel there's more opportunity now than there was then, so people did get pigeonholed more.
Yeah. Because do we even have anybody like that today, right now? Like as like a modern actor? And I'm thinking of like, somebody who is like Jim Varney and Ernest, Paul Rubens and Pee Wee.
Yeah.
Somebody who you almost know better by their persona than you do by the actor.
There's the one that I'm going to say ties into sort of, I'll go on a little, I'll try not to ramble too much, but Flow. The progressive commercial.
That's a great one. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Because it's like, that's the thing that for people today who aren't familiar with Jim Varney's career, it's like, it would be as if Flo got a TV show. Flo was the star of movies, right? Because it's like Ernest started out as a pitchman, just making commercials for all these different products, and a lot of them started out where they were local commercials. So everyone thought like, oh, okay, like he's a local guy. He's a local guy. And he's in all these different markets. Like one of the more fun stories I like to share that I read was like early on when they were making these commercials, people were a little turned off by them because he's like right in the camera. He's talking to the camera. It's a big performance, and they're like, oh, this guy's kind of annoying. But then those same people would be like, when's that commercial coming on? To the point where certain newspapers were printing in the newspaper like what time Ernest commercials are going to air.
Oh my god!
So people could tune in and watch them, and that's just crazy, So just his performance, that character just hit at that time. And I think some of the great things about it is like when you watch those commercials, they're like little stories. They all have a gag. They all have a joke. And kind of like, I think sort of like the Muppet Show. It's like no joke is too cheap, right?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, what's the gag here? What are we doing? And they hit it genuinely. They're not like, it's just sort of, they understand the humor that they're doing. They understand they got 30 seconds to get the information and a couple jokes out. So I think like that's why it hit, like that performance along with the concept. And it was something different where you didn't have people, just talking into the camera. And they use sort of a fisheye lens too to make it seem like he's like right there. So, yeah, I would say like Flo is sort of that character because you could look at like, there's different like sitcom. I'm thinking of Rainn Wilson. Somebody who's like, oh, we know him specifically as Dwight Schrute.
Sure,
yeah. And it's just like, even when he tries to do other things, it's like, you're Dwight.
Yeah.
I feel like the lower on the call sheet cast of The Office is very fat with their commercials.
Absolutely.
Like you'll just get commercials with them as their characters,
or even the guy who played Jerry on like Parks and Rec.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's like it seems like a nice guy, but he's just Jerry.
Yeah.
Like, But yeah, I think you look at and speaking of that, I think Nick Offerman was lucky to escape because he's a very talented performer, but he could have easily just been Ron Swanson.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he is still Ron Swanson to a lot of people.
Wow, you guys do have me thinking. I heard, they want to make this Miami Vice movie, but now that Michael B's got the Oscar, there's issues with the price negotiation. My man wants that money, which he deserves. I think they should get Jake from Allstate. That dude looks ripped.
Yeah.
Have you seen him? That's what I'm saying. Because he's kind of in that flow state of like having a character. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's also been progressively getting jacked this whole time.
That's two.
And I'm just saying, that could be the jump off. And I think Jim Varney would have walked so that guy could run to go from being in like the advertising and having big movies.
And am I right though that like Ted Lasso was also a commercial mascot first, and that like Jason Sudeikis was doing like as like a sports mascot for like NBC, and then they turned that into
I
the
thought
show.
that was a SNL character, but the SNL character was very different.
I could be wrong about this. I feel like they did something for Funny or Die. Like,
Ooh.
and then exactly what you said, like then he became for ESPN or whatever, like he was doing commercials and that grew into that character.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. That's a good call. Like that is sort of like, hey, this works, you know, so let's start developing it. That was a criticism I've read in the past of Ernest that I, of course, disagree with. Was people are like, oh, they're trying to capitalize, you know, like they're trying to force this, you know, success into like movies now. It's like, no, you're a pitch man, like stay there. And it's like, don't you see like the talent is like bursting with Jim Varney? Because that's another thing like that I find fascinating was his based on the commercials, like his fame was growing and growing, where they had like a fan club and all this stuff. And he went to the Indy 500, right? And did you? Sorry if you know this, but like if you don't, he made an appearance there. He was like, okay, we're gonna have like Jim Varney making an appearance. And they had like Disney characters there, so Mickey Mouse is gonna come out. And Michael Eisner happened to be there as well, you know, just in the stands watching. So Mickey Mouse comes out and be like, oh, yeah. And then Jim Varney as Ernest comes out and the whole crowd like, whoa, like explodes. And that's where Michael Eisner's like, who is this guy? We got to find out. And then they find out, they're talking to him, they see the commercials, and they're like, we want to make movies with you. And it's just like this chance meeting of them. Like it just happens to see him. People like him. Let's make movies with him, you know? And to me, like that's such a wild success story of just you're making commercials, your charisma, this character, the comedy, like it's connecting with an audience. And then the right people see you at the right time.
Yeah.
And they're like, we want to turn this into movies.
And I think it's kind of crazy too. So I mean, we're basically jumping into like, our
it's
history
great.
segment. Well, I mean, no, I love it. Organically turning into that. You're Mike, you are such a mensch right now for just like taking the reins, and please keep going. But yeah, so I mean, the movies then were directed by one of the guys who was like behind the ad agency that developed Ernest, right?
Yeah, John Cherry. John Cherry, he worked with Jim Varney. They met, I believe, in Tennessee. Like, and they were making. There was when Varney was like in his 20s. They were making these Purity Dairy, I think Sergeant Glory was Ernest's name. I could be wrong. I hope I'm not wrong about that. But he played the drill sergeant character, and those were successful commercials at the time. And then after he did a handful of those, Jim Varney moves out to California to see like, can I make it? And starts doing like stand up, so it starts to become well known in like the stand up world. And a fun little fact, we were talking Robin Williams. There's clips online if you go on YouTube, like of Robin Williams and Jim Varney together backstage at like Comic Relief, which the only time you ever see Vern, and this is probably I consider this to be non-canon, but the only time was during a Comic Relief segment that they had, because it was a little more adult. So they had like a guy walk into, you don't know who he is. He's just guy walks in and puts on like a sex mask, like one of the, you know,
Oh my God.
and, you know, opens the zipper, says something to a lady in the bed. And then they have Jim Varney as Ernest pop in through the window, you know, like, so it's, you know, a little more risque than anything Ernest did, but it was for comic relief and all this stuff. But that allowed him to kind of meet some of these, you know, like, because Jim Varney, you don't see him with like the Robin Williams or Steve Martins and stuff. So it was cool to know, like, okay, they run in that same universe, so to speak, you know. But anyway, back to like John Cherry. Jim is trying to find a career out in California, doesn't quite work out, so he moves back to Tennessee and has to get kind of like a normal job, I think like driving a truck or something.
Sure.
And then he goes to John Cherry. He's like, what do you got for me? Let's do more stuff together. And they had been given, like Cardin and Cherry was the advertising agency. And they're like, well, you know, we have this one commercial and it was for like a local amusement park. And the local amusement park was so run down and just awful that they're just like, we can't show any of it, you know,
Mhm.
how, because no one's going to want to go if you show any of it. So they had this idea of like, well, what if this character is excited to go there and he's, you know, talking to his neighbor about it. And then that evolves into like, okay, we'll get Varney to be that guy. And, you know, the camera, we'll just, because they can't afford another actor. So we'll just
Right.
talk to the camera, and they do that. And then it just hits. And they really like it. Then Purity Dairy like sees that because they're like doing a pitch about working with them. And they're like, oh, go back to that guy. And then it just becomes the Ernest characters, and John Cherry was behind, you know, he's arguably just as responsible for that character as Jim Varney, you know.
Yeah.
Though again, not to get ahead of ourselves, I don't think anyone could ever replicate what Jim Varney did. And you know, so yeah, John Cherry, he also wrote a book, Keeper of the Clown. I don't know if it's out of print or not. I do have a signed copy. So
Oh wow.
settle down, guys. Settle down. I know.
That's still cool. I mean,
It's
yeah.
fun.
Should have got.
There was a period of time that I really regret not having more money in my life. I guess that's every day. But like there was a point in time where John Cherry was auctioning off like on eBay or something, like his Ernest memorabilia.
Oh wow.
And I remember seeing like Ernest hats that like wore like screen accurate Ernest hats, and they were going for like $200-$300.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
like, I just can't, you know. So I never bought anything. But now that John Cherry has passed, and it's just sort of like you're never going to see that stuff.
Sure.
That
again.
screen use stuff is getting more and more expensive.
Right.
I always wanted a Halloween mask. I didn't care for
Oh,
which
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
But they're like 900 for like a destroyed one.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy.
That is, yeah. And John Cherry directed all but one of the Ernest movies. Coke Sam's, who was like a producer and writer involved with all the Ernest movies, took the reins over one of them. And I'm embarrassed because I can't think of which one it was. But yeah.
Only give me a second.
I was going to guess Rides Again, but I wasn't sure.
We could say it's Rides Again just so you feel a little bit better. Be like, the real guy was on the other
I
one.
think it's School. I think Ernest Goes to School. I think Coke Sam's directed.
Which I slept through today. I watched Scared Stupid, but at the end I drifted off and I woke up in the middle of school. I was like, whoa.
It is Ernest Goes to School.
Yay!
Hey. I could feel it too.
That's why you fell asleep.
Yeah.
Didn't have that cherry zazz to it.
Mhm.
Yeah, you needed more of that cherry fizz, and
Yeah.
not that Coke, that flat Coke.
I needed that cherry fizz.
I do love the idea of a production team being cherry and Coke. Like,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
that. People dream
perfect.
for those types of names. Like, oh man, you're like, oh, my parents cursed me, but it's like, actually, no, you got a pretty memorable thing here. So that's crazy though. So then basically, so did that parlay first into the TV show that was like, hey Vern, it's Ernest, or was that did they start talking movies while that was happening?
Yeah, that happened between Ernest Goes to Camp and Ernest Saves Christmas.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly how that came about. The cool thing about that to me is like Disney had nothing to do with the show, you know, so they like still owned the property of Ernest, the character of Ernest. That was all still Jim Varney and John, like Cardin and Cherry still owned that.
Sure.
And I think because it got canceled after 13 episodes, but you know, especially if you like Ernest, like check out that show because it is a sketch show, and it has different, you know, like other characters. It has Varney playing a slew of different characters. It's, I think they saw the success of Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah.
They're like, well, hey, we just had, you know, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, big hit, goes into a show. Ernest Goes to Camp. It was a big hit. We need to make a show. And the wild thing to me is like, I think it was maybe shot on a soundstage, but it does definitely feel like it just shot in John Cherry's house because that's where like all the commercials were shot and everything. So it feels very like not necessarily low production, but just kind of keeping it like a tight rain on
For sure.
everything, which is cool.
There's very scant information about production for a lot of these, but certainly it was season 13 episodes. It looks like Coke Sam's and John Cherry were both involved. I was on CBS from September to December of 1988.
Yeah.
But I think I could be wrong. I thought I read this earlier that Jim Varney won a daytime Emmy for that though, which is pretty cool. Like, oh, he only lasted 13 episodes, but here's an Emmy.
Yeah.
He's so close to that EGOT.
That's like one of those because of what these movies were and everything, and obviously critics panned them. And some people looked at them just as like kids movies and stuff. Like, to win that Emmy, it's like here's some respect for your talent and your career, which I think was well deserved, and unfortunately few and far between for the character, because I think like people were very quick to just dismiss what it was because of, like, I remember someone mentioning like that they thought like Ernest was just kind of like poop and fart humor, and it's really not any of that.
Poop and farting.
No. But there's like this perception of like, oh, it's like lowbrow, and it's like, not really. It's just like I said, like that Ernest character is like a human cartoon.
Yeah.
So it really is just like physical comedy. People might argue this, but sort of in the vein of like a Buster Keaton or a Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah. And there's certainly a type of innocence to Ernest, which I think is accessible to a lot of people. And it reminds me of a lot of movies from around that area. And this is a bad example, but the vibe I kept getting from watching this movie last night, excuse this for a weird comparison, was like Problem Child. Oh, and that's like obviously a very adult movie, but
I was thinking like Dennis the Menace.
Yeah. But like definitely like, more of an innocence, more of like childlike wonder. And certainly like, I mean, if you go like down to like Three Stooges level of like slapstick comedy.
Yes. Yeah. It's, you mentioned Halloween before. The Shape, Nick Castle directed Dennis the Menace.
I knew that. That one. I thought he was did an Ernest maybe or something.
We're talking the Walter Matthau.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, just a weird little tangent.
Would love to have gotten some Christopher Lloyd in that Ernest movie.
He would have been the right kind of counter energy if he wanted to do that.
I am disappointed I didn't watch Camp for this, because I'd be curious to see an Ernest movie with the most thrown at it, because that's what it sounds like, right? That's probably the most.
Ooh. I would say the Ernest movie with the most thrown at it is Ernest Goes to Jail. I think Ernest Goes to Jail turns every like dial up to 10 of just like it gets very silly, it gets very cartoony. Like the prison guards are dressed in like pink outfits with big shoulder pads. And I think that's kind of how they got away with putting Ernest in jail, right? Like it still needs to be accessible to like kids. But that out of the 4 Touchstone Picture movies, the Disney pictures, like Ernest goes to camp. He's like helping the kids. He's a counselor there. Ernest Saves Christmas. There's a girl who's running away. He's interacting with her and Santa Claus. And then in Ernest Scared Stupid, he's got the kids to help fight trolls and such. But Ernest Goes to Jail was the first one where it's like there's no kids in it, So it does. It's the most. This is weird to say. It's the most like. In those first 4, like adult, like it feels like, oh, we're trying to hit a bigger audience of just like really like this comedy is just throwing everything at the wall, see what sticks.
Yeah. And I mean, I was kind of impressed because one of the numbers I had to look up before doing this podcast was the budget and box office.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite things to look at whenever we do a movie episode on here. Okay. The budget for Ernest Goes to Camp, which came out May 22nd, 1987. So adjust for inflation. So budget was $3.5 million. How much money do you guys think this movie made?
I kind of know. Are you talking just theater or along with VHS like rental?
Oh, just the theater box office.
Just the theater. I believe domestic.
No, please.
Was around 26 million.
you're very, very close.
Very close.
I was gonna guess around 30 million.
I should have let you guess first. 'Cause-
Yeah, and I also like need a second to get the bearings whenever we do this of the time frame. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I need to hear one. Be like, what range are we working with?
Yeah. But no. You guys, you're dead on. It is 23.5 million.
23.5,
So this movie had a $20 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a smash hit when
Yeah.
you can spend $3 million on it. So I mean,
Yeah.
crazy to think that's what it came down to, though. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, no wonder they made 8 more when they're like, oh, okay, so we just
Yeah.
kind of put Ernest in very precarious situations and just profit. Like,
Yeah.
hey, Jim Varney's just gonna entertain people for 90 minutes.
I think that's like the interest. There's, within the Ernest fandom, there's probably a lot of different thoughts of it. But like, I personally, with everything I've read and seen and stuff, like when Disney stopped wanting to make Ernest movies, it was because Ernest Scared Stupid didn't have as big of a return.
Mhm.
Like that was the first one where they saw less money. They were all going up. And sorry if I'm spoiling what you were
Nope,
going to say.
Not at all.
I didn't know if you were going to go through all of them and talk box office, because I was like, oh, I could easily.
No, I'd be curious what that's looking like. Like what? Because sometimes with these big companies, the drop off is minuscule, and you're
Yes.
still like they're kind of just like it's like the canary in the coal mine. Is that the right thing I'm doing?
Well, yeah, let me give you guys the box offices on these first 4, and we can really talk a little more about
Yeah.
some of the goings on within them. So Ernest Goes to Jail, or no, that was the third one, right?
Yep.
So Ernest Saves Christmas is the follow-up
Correct.
to Camp. That had a $6.5 million budget, so they doubled it, made $28 million.
Ooh.
Ernest Goes to
Good.
Jail, $9 million budget, and it made $25 million.
Okay.
So, I mean, so far, pretty good. But Ernest Scared Stupid. So this one definitely broke the bank for them. $9.6 million budget. Box office of 14 million. So that's where
Okay, now that's enough of a drop off to give pause, I would say.
Yeah.
That's knocking you back to a $3 million budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my just personal sort of the reason I think that happened is I wonder if like Jail was a little bit more adult,
Mhm.
but for sure, like Ernest Scared Stupid scared kids, like those trolls are,
they're creepy.
they're
It's
creepy.
an
Yeah.
upsetting design.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you may have noticed because maybe I'll think of it, but the people who made those trolls made the killer clowns from outer space.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Big head vibe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you can kind of see it. They claim not to have reused some of them, but if you look, they're pretty
It
close.
looked like they just moved the head down
Yeah.
and got
Yeah.
rid of everything else.
And painted them brown.
Yeah.
I want to say like Chihoto Brothers or something. Gosh, I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does to them. I don't mean to disrespect them. They've been working very hard, but it's something. Hopefully, I didn't just like curse in another language or something.
Mhm.
But yeah, they who knows?
Like I said, the production notes that I'm even
Oh, yeah.
getting, it's so scant.
Yeah.
Because I mean, unfortunately, probably a lot of people were like, "Well, who cares?" I mean, I think a lot of people care after the investment in Varney and like everything around
Yeah.
that. But like, yeah, they're like, "Oh, yeah, certainly there are people here." I'll
Yeah.
see if I can find an IMDb.
I was at an age with because like I saw it in the theater too, Ernest Scared Stupid,
Oh yeah,
where I liked that it was a little bit scary.
yeah.
I liked that it was, a little darker than the other ones. But I think like a lot of parents weren't going to take their kids to that because it's like, especially, Ernest Goes to Camp is very, I was saying before, like it's the most grounded in reality. Now there's some like supernatural sort of elements to it. And of course, Ernest Saves Christmas. Here we have Santa Claus and there's magic there. And Ernest Goes to Jail. Like he gets electrocuted and it can shoot, electricity from his fingers and
Yeah.
and flies around because gravity loses its grasp on him. And then, of course, trolls. So they each kind of keep getting crazier and crazier.
Yeah, and Ernest Goes to Jail has a really great How Did This Get Made episode.
Yes. Yeah. Which, as an Ernest fan, it's like any publicity is good publicity, right?
Mhm.
So that I think brought attention to the Ernest franchise in a way that it hadn't been for a little while.
Yeah, because they definitely lovingly dunked on it in a way. Like I didn't think they think they were respectful in a sense of like to the character and Jim Varney, and even very complimentary of Jim Varney.
Yeah.
But it did like they did poke fun at some stuff that I was like, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, they had Gregor Punchatz is the credited puppeteer. That's the only thing I can truly find that's the property department. And it's like it's hard. They're not really listing like any like specific like people. And I'm
Yeah.
not sure what they're categorizing these puppets underneath. So I'll keep looking around. but-
Yeah, if you typed in like what company made Killer Clowns from Outer Space,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because that's probably some people are very curious,
yeah,
because that's one I don't know if I've ever seen all the way through.
I don't think I have either.
it was too. And this is what's kind of funny about it is I remember it being on TV and thinking those clowns are too scary. They're freaking me out. Yet when they become trolls, totally fine.
Yeah, they're crediting Darcy F. Olson as the costume designer from Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but I don't think I saw her.
That's the other one. Yeah, no, that's because it is, I feel like it is something brothers. Not to get all caught up in.
No, but I think it was interesting to try and see
Yeah.
were they the same or not.
Yeah. And yeah, I just think like that one was probably a little too scary for Disney.
Yeah.
A story that I read, I think in John Cherry's book, mentions how, because I truly believe that the reason the first four movies are as successful as they were is Disney had a little bit of say and reign in on like what the creators wanted to do with the Ernest character.
Sure.
So it's just like, of course, like Ernest Goes to Camp, like how do you translate this commercial pitch man into a movie? And just that idea of like, well, because a lot of things, a lot of summer camp movies of the like Meatballs, talking about Bill Murray.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's take Ernest and put him in that camp counselor role. Okay, success. Of course, like what's next? Like make a Christmas movie. Because of course that's going to be successful. You just pop them in there and it's to me like a very funny movie and well done.
Probably the one I've seen the most just because of the holiday connection.
Right, yeah. And it's the one that I think is regularly available on Disney Plus.
Yes.
And none of the other ones are available like on Disney
Interesting.
Plus, which is frustrating as a fan. Like, yeah, you can find them, but it's like embrace Ernest, Disney.
Yeah, I did find Stupid in School on one of these, like, like it wasn't Pluto or the other one. It was some
Yeah.
other place. And when I watched it, it was weird. They would play an ad, but it would be in the bottom right corner and it'd have no sound. And they were short. They were like 15-second ads. I'm like, this is better than Pluto.
My goodness.
So I didn't give a cent, which I feel bad saying when I say it out loud. But I mostly blame Disney.
I mean,
Yeah.
It should be on there.
we can say that, like, yeah, these movies are difficult to find.
Yeah.
I tried to get a DVD from the library. They had to actually like send it in from somewhere else, and didn't make it in time. So I ended up having to just drop the rental, which I was like, hey, that's all right. Residuals to Eartha Kitt.
Yeah.
We can have that. So, which man is she doing some stuff? In that
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
She's going big.
Yeah. That's what's fun about like movies like that, and especially like Ernest. Ernest is so big and over the top, which I say that with sort of an asterisk of like, I think it's so impressive that he can be so big and he
Yeah.
can be so crazy and somehow pull it off, right? It doesn't seem like he's overacting. It doesn't seem like this, like, oh, okay, he's chewing the scenery. It's just, he plays the character so believable, in my opinion, But like Eartha Kitt is huge. All the adults are kind of big dummies,
Yes.
and then the kids are the grounded ones.
And they're like smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's just funny. And I think he has such command over the character that like when you see him and he can respond honestly as Ernest, and I think that he responds earnestly, you
Yeah.
might say. That-
Important.
yeah, it's the importance of being earnest. There's a thing happening right now. Fred and I think we're very clever.
I will plug Justin Lloyd, is Jim Varney's nephew, and he wrote a book called The Importance of Being Earnest.
Hey,
Man.
that's good.
Yeah,
Dang.
I believe that's the name of the documentary, the Kickstarter started.
Yeah, which we should definitely talk about shortly too. And maybe
Yeah.
that's a good point to talk about when we do get into Show Me the Franchise. But I want to make sure we talk enough about the movies here
Yeah.
first. Because I think one thing we kind of talked about before jumping on the podcast too is just that there really is like no rules in the
Right.
Ernest world, right? Like magic goes, like he can get electric powers
Yeah.
from an electric chair or something like that. And it's like, because I think you framed it perfectly, Mike, by saying he is a cartoon character
Right.
on screen, right? In a way that you certainly see, and we talked about Robin Williams already. I think he was also kind of a cartoon character, in
Right,
some
yeah.
regard, but this is literally like a character that also switches wardrobe in like an
Yeah.
instant. And it's just so crazy to try and like see that kind of become a reality. And they are making big swings in these movies. right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I was just gonna say, I know I keep adding our comparisons, but it is kind of crazy to have like a character be this goofy throughout all of the movie, pretty much, and not really have that kind of moment. And I feel like it was another walk so this person could run situation is like Ace Ventura.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like that's the other example of a character who is just ridiculous the whole time, has millions of games going, and doesn't have that like grounded moment. And
Yeah.
it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good call. Yeah.
It is true. I mean, and certainly Ace Ventura are movies with the plots that, do they age great? Not really, but but all the same, I think that is the one thing I was like, anytime you watch stuff from the late 80s, early 90s, you have to kind of gird your loins a little bit to be like, what problematic stuff's going to show?
Yeah.
And, I think there's like maybe one moment of like brown face that I was like, well, that wasn't great. But also it's like you keep in context. That was the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I would, it's Ernest Goes to Africa is not the greatest place to take Ernest.
Yeah. What is that
like,
like? What is that movie like?
So I was curious. I
Yeah.
did kind of want to. I did want to look at it. It felt like the Ring video, but I did kind of want to watch it.
It's, and I get where it's a sort of, taking like that, what they would refer to like, oh, Ernest is a redneck, and it's like, let's stick him somewhere that you wouldn't expect. But also by that time, they were filming in Africa because it was cheaper for them to make movies there.
Right.
So they're like, well, let's just go ahead and take him to Africa. So the movie starts out. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Do people want me to interrupt myself and change directions? Sure.
We'll put a pin in Africa.
Yeah.
Would have been in Africa. Yeah, because that's more sad. But the fun thing about Ernest is just like, if you're familiar with like the Marx Brothers, like all their movies, they're still the same characters. They might have different names, but they put them in different like jobs. They put them in different sort of environments to bounce off of. And
Yeah.
Ernest is like that as well, where there's no real continuity between these movies. It's just sort of like, we'll give him a different job. We'll put him in a different town. We'll put him, and there's very little like that these days, where it's just like, there's no real continuity between it aside from the character.
Right.
They're the ones holding the whole franchise together. Because even like Ace Ventura is that way, where it's just like no one from the first movie is in the second movie. And you could see like they could just take him and drop him wherever. But the place they didn't take Ace Ventura was Africa, which is probably smart.
They did take him to Africa.
I was like, well done. Oops.
Funny.
Out of the 50%,
I was like, I was gonna jump in there. I was like, so that's interesting that you said that they filmed in Africa, because I was like, that must be why they filmed Ace Ventura 2 there.
I was like, ooh, there's that dry wit he was talking about.
Very funny, very funny. Yeah, When Nature Calls, a movie I used to really enjoy. I mean, there's still parts of that movie that are very funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was it was interesting to be like, oh, Ernest went to Africa too.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, and you
For some reason, I was thinking he was in the rainforest. I haven't seen that in such a long time.
it could have
But
been
yeah,
there.
no, you are.
Yeah.
You guys are 100%.
They're playing with the same stereotype cards, at least.
Yeah.
Right.
Although it was funny when we were together doing a record last week, we were going through. We were just we were just looking at what was available to rent, and we went to Ernest Goes to Africa, and we just wanted to watch the trailer for it, and it was just a clip that had zero Ernest, and it just looked like a 70s Attenborough movie where it was just like Africans walking through like this forest and this quiet, and then there's like some guy with a sword, and I was just like, what's going on here?
So out of context that I was like, I'm so curious what kind of shenanigans Ernest gets up to. Like,
So they have. So it's the idea behind the movie is sort of there's these diamonds. Like someone steals diamonds from Africa to sell, like black market, probably whatever.
sure.
And to hide these diamonds, I forget exactly how, but they end up like they dump them in this kind of flea market because they're being chased. So they dump them. They're going to go back and get them. Meanwhile, Ernest, who has a crush on this waitress, is walking through the same flea market, finds it, thinks this would be great to turn into a yo-yo, and then takes these diamonds, turns it into a yo-yo, gives it to her. They see that she has the diamonds. They kidnap her and take her to Africa. So then Ernest has to go to Africa
Oh my God.
For love.
for love.
Wow.
And to save her. And he runs into situations that, yes, are definitely cringy. But it is sort of this adventure to find his love, and he deals with the bad guys trying to kill him, and it gives him opportunity to do different characters, but some of those characters might not be the most appropriate
Yeah.
characters. And because that was one of the things that was nice in the first four movies. Like in Ernest Goes to Camp, he's just Ernest throughout the whole thing.
Sure.
And then, they do like the TV show, Hey Vern, It's Ernest. He starts playing more characters. They start working those into Ernest Saves Christmas. Jail, he's doing a whole bunch of impressions. If you don't, like, he's playing the dual role of the bad guy and the good guy. And then it's just Off the Leash in Scared Stupid, right?
Yeah.
He's just all these different characters with no explanation of like what is actually happening in reality,
I have a very fun game I think we
Yeah.
should play here. And I just kind of came up with this, Fred. I'll pitch this to you and you let me know. And Mike, you tell me if you agree. I think we should go through each of these titles one by one and phrase it like Jeopardy. Why does Ernest go to camp? Why does Ernest go to jail? 'Cause it started with why does Ernest go to jail? But now I'm also like, why does Ernest go to school? why does Ernest ride again?
Well, Ernest goes to school because he's going to take over his dad's company, but his dad's worried that he's kind of a slacker, so he has to take classes kindergarten through 12th grade.
I think you're thinking of Billy Madison.
It's a different movie, but also a man-child. Though.
Yeah.
So you're on the right track.
Yeah. But a character who does have to get grounded by the end of it.
That's true.
Mhm.
In a way that it's effective. I mean,
Yeah, it kind of works.
yeah.
He wants to be a teacher. It's nice.
Yeah. So why does Ernest go to camp?
To go to camp. Well, it's funny because in my head I'm like, I can answer all these questions. So Ernest goes to camp. That's his job. He's the maintenance guy. That's what he does for work. He's maintenance at the camp, and he wants to really be a camp counselor because he wants to be able to mold the minds of the children of the future.
Yeah.
So his goal is to be a leader. And a sweet message is like, really, he's looking for friends, right? He's looking for people to connect with. That's where it is funny because as you said that, I thought like there is for sure two Ernest movies that have made me tear up.
Oh,
Where it does change kind of the emotion. Like, gee, I'm glad it's raining song in Ernest Goes to Camp is very sad. It's something, Jim Varney sings after being beat up and defeated. And so that's why he goes to camp. He saves Christmas because Santa needs his help. He goes to jail because a convicted, maybe felon, let's say, looks exactly like him.
Oh, Prince
Spoiler
of
alert.
Awkward
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. So he doesn't deserve to be in jail, but just coincidentally, the guy looks exactly like him.
Yeah.
And he's scared stupid because there's trolls.
Yeah. I love that the two of the answers are, well, he has to help Santa, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, in this world, Santa real.
Yeah. I mean, Ernest saves Christmas. The answer's in the question.
Yeah.
You gotta save Christmas.
You gotta.
You got to answer in the form of a question.
Now, I am still curious about back to school.
Yeah.
This is so he Ernest goes to school because he's the janitor,
Mhm.
and it turns out they're gonna fire him. It's sort of a Larry Crown situation, which is a silly reference. My apologies, but like it's you can't work here. You didn't graduate high school, so you have to have a degree to work here. So then, much like a Billy Madison, he starts going to school.
Does he refer to a GED as a JED? Because I feel that's a Ernest joke just right there. Gotta get my JED.
Which also is funny because does he not play Jed Clampett in the Beverly
Hey.
Hillbillies movie?
Which
He
I've
did
never
get his Jed.
I've never seen the Brady Bunch movie or the Beverly Hillbillies movie, which are like the recast remakes, right?
Right.
Right.
Did you
Yeah.
grow up liking those shows or watching?
I didn't really have much access to that.
Yeah.
You know, small town. I didn't have a lot of TV. Yeah.
Small town.
You got to say the thing, Fred.
I know. It feels forced now.
The bit's not dead. You
No,
just
no,
keep-
no.
Keep going. But so that's why he goes back to school. Man, it does
Yeah.
seem like he does share a lot of plots with other movies.
yes.
though.
Well, that was how Jail came about. Is I think they were working on some other movie,
Mhm.
and Disney was like, "Hey, we just shot. Oh, what is it called? There was a Sylvester Stallone movie where he goes to prison or is in prison. So they had all these sets,
Oh, I know you're talking about, yeah.
and they were just like, "Well, stick Ernest in jail."
Mhm.
Like we have this set, it'll be cheap. And they're like, "Oh, okay,"
Yeah.
and everything is shot pretty much in the jail.
It'd be cool if it was the jail from Face Off, though, with like the boots. These boots.
So what do we have left? Why does he write again?
Oh,
Which one? I'm sad to hear that one's a little lackluster because the description made it sound good.
yeah,
Because it's like him with against English folk.
right.
That's funny.
You might get more mileage out of it. I think it's sort of I'll use this comparison of like I watched Lost when it aired.
Mhm.
So it was more disappointing how it ended for me.
Sure.
If you just binge it on Netflix, you're probably not gonna care that much.
Especially
'Cause
like for me, I finished it last year for the
Yeah.
first time, and I had to hear all the belly aching about it. So yeah, by the time,
Yep.
same with The Sopranos. By the time I watched it,
yeah.
I knew what to expect. So
Yeah.
I get that.
So I had like a decade of like, oh, Ernest is great. And I finally get to see another movie in the theater and being disappointed. Again, it's still a fun performance. It's just he gets so they're looking for the crown jewels because there's a reason they need, like the British are trying to find because the real crown jewels, it's been legend that they're not, the ones that we know are not actually the crown jewels. So Ernest is it's the closest to Ernest he thinks he's like Indiana Jones,
Okay.
and yeah, and there's some fun stuff to it for sure, but for me it got very repetitive of like, okay, he's on this canon and it just keeps it's a runaway canon. So that's why I think ultimately it's a twofer of just like Rise Again because it's a movie after like the movies were thought to be done. So it's like here he rides again, but also it's like, oh, he's on that damn canon again.
Okay, and then Ernest
School,
Which
slam dunk Ernest. I don't know if I can justify.
I was just gonna say I thought Rides Again was more of a King Ralph situation. Unfortunately, but hey, that still sounds good. Indiana Jones.
Yeah, he does get. This is a spoiler. He does get the crown stuck on his head.
Oh, that's
That's good. That is good.
So I mean, Slam Dunk Ernest is just Ernest plays basketball. Like,
Yes, a very common job for Ernest is janitor. So he's a janitor at a mall, and the other janitors and cleanup crew, when the mall's closed, they'll play basketball.
Oh, okay.
So he wants to. This one is worth dissecting because it's not my favorite. But again, it's Jim Varney. But like this one, so he wants to play basketball with these guys, and one of the other janitors has a son, and the son wants to be good at basketball, and he wants these really nice shoes because they're going to make him good at basketball, kind of like buying into the consumerism of it. So dad's like, no, you have to like earn the money, you have to put in the effort to be good and practice and everything. Well, Ernest just gets these shoes, and there's like the angel, there's like a devil and angel. The devil, I don't know who that actor is, but the angel, do you know this?
Yeah.
Is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Hey,
Yeah. Milwaukee Bucks great.
Yeah.
That's
So
really funny.
it's a crazy thing of Ernest becomes amazing at basketball because of these shoes that the devil gave him.
so it's like Mike.
Yeah.
With Lil Bow Wow?
Yeah, that's
Oh
the thing.
my
He gets
God.
Michael Jordan shoes and he's good at
He's
basketball.
good.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like a lesson is learned, of course, but it's just sort of he gives in to temptation, and then he has to learn his lesson that it's more about who you are and putting the effort in than just going taking the easy route. But yeah, there's devils and angels and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar,
Wow.
magic shoes.
It's a good
kind
time
of-
for angels in sports.
Yeah. The Angels in the outfield. around
Hell
that
yeah.
time, Too. And then Ernest in the Army. Why did he join the Army?
Oh yes. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while. Like he basically joins the reserves, the Army Reserves, because I think his buddy is in it, who is played by John Cherry.
Hmm.
Well,
And I think like he just wants to, I don't know, support his country. Oh boy, I really petered out on that one.
That's okay. I mean, hey, I think that's all. It's Stripes meets Ernest. It's like, speaking of Bill Murray movie.
Yeah.
in the Army now meets Ernest.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be, is that the Pauly Shore movie?
Yeah, Pauly Shore and Andy Dick, I think, or is that?
Oh.
Hey, that's the jury duty.
I think it's. I don't. Yeah, you are correct.
No,
He's
it
in
is
the army.
the army
He is in
one,
the
yeah.
army.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it give us a synopsis of Ernest in the Army?
Yeah, I can get you that.
Yeah, because I feel like I really
Rob
missed that one.
Schneider brings back the draft.
Ernest, working as a golf ball collector at
There
a
it
golf
is.
range in Georgia, fantasizes about driving a big rig. His friend Ben tells him that if he joins the U.S. Army, he will get it to drive large vehicles
There.
and never have to go into actual combat. So he enlists in the reserves, but one day the United Nations peacekeeping commander and the British ambassador visit Ernest's camp and demand the entire unit, including him, be deployed to the fictional Middle Eastern country of Kyrgyzstan.
Oh, of course.
So that's how Ernest joined the army.
There it is.
Unbelievable.
What is- Yeah.
But I'm like, should we maybe talk about the Ernest movies that didn't get made? Maybe jump into our show me the franchise.
I think that's a very fruitful topic.
Yeah. There's yeah.
I mean, do you have any? I mean, so this is our coulda, woulda, shoulda segment. So things
Yeah.
we wish that they could have done, would have done, should have done differently. So you can look back at things that did happen and maybe be like, maybe we don't make that one. Rides again. We don't need him on a
Yeah.
cannon for 30 minutes.
Ernest rises again.
Ernest rises again. Yeah, the rise of Ernest. It's actually Ernest is not an actual Skywalker, but by the end of the movie.
I would like as a fan, like I said, like I appreciate them on all levels, but I truly think like the four Disney produced ones were like really strong. Like just the vehicles fit him well. It was a good showcase for who he was. Obviously, they had a bigger budget for that stuff. So for me, it's like I get why they went back to it. Because it's like, hey, now that Disney's gone, we can make all this profit, right?
Mhm.
Didn't quite work out that way, but they were successful because it's like straight to VHS, straight to DVD at that time. Anyway, I wish they had paused, right? So it's like Ernest Scared Stupid doesn't go as well. Then they just pause because I feel like that is something like certain movies won't do. To me, it's sort of like Marvel should have done that, right? Like right after you get Endgame, okay, no, just stop.
Yes.
Just hold on, make us miss it, make us want more. Don't just keep rolling into it because then it's just there. Where with Ernest, I think there was that same element of like, you made 4, let's pause, let's not rush through 5 more.
Yeah.
And then they could have like truly returned. Like people missed this character.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have given him opportunity to do more acting roles and stuff. But then again, as we know, unfortunately, he passed away early.
Yeah.
He had lung cancer, so he's gone by 50.
Yeah.
So then it's just kind of like, okay, well, maybe then it is good that we got as much Ernest as we did. Sorry, that was a little down.
No, I mean that's part of the story. You know?
I mean, I think that's almost more the case for this Show Me the Franchise than anything.
Yeah.
Is like we never even got a chance to do like a reboot where it's like, hey, it's been 20 years since the last Ernest movie. Let's see you come back out. Like Ernest like faces the music or something like that. Isn't that a Bill and Ted third one?
It is, yeah.
Like, or something.
They did in fact face the music.
They did face the
The
music.
movie I did watch.
I did too. Yeah. a lot of
I
things.
remember liking it, but I think it was like that was a deep COVID watch, and it just kind of like
Yeah.
Yeah.
probably due up to just run them all back. Probably
I mean, truly, yeah.
make it content though.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Bill and Ted, it probably. But funny enough, bringing up Bill and Ted, right, and seeing the flip side of the coin there, right, where Keanu Reeves obviously escaped Ted very easily and went on to have a humongous career, whereas I think Alex Winter has kind of always been in the shadow of Bill ever since Bill and Ted, and it's like, why? It's so interesting that it did happen that way.
It'd be great to see Varney's Waiting for Godot.
Yeah. Oh man.
Mhm.
Actually, I bet he would be really good in that.
Yeah. He did. There was Billy Bob Thornton was a friend of his, and he did a movie called Daddy and Them.
Mm.
I rented and watched it for Varney. I honestly don't remember much of the movie. And unfortunately, like his most dramatic scene was like cut, but it was like on the deleted scenes and stuff. And watching that, it was like, oh, he does have like range. He can do more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this is in terms of what I would have enjoyed seeing, because when I was like 3rd, 4th grade, I would make up Ernest movies in my head and sometimes act them out, right? So I mean, I had the jean jacket with the no sleeves.
Yeah,
right?
let's
Got
do
something.
it.
So I was always thinking of like Ernest getting caught up somehow like in the mafia. Like I always thought like that could be a fun thing of him, all these misunderstandings, him sort of being said, not necessarily killing, of course, but just sort of in that sort of a Goodfellas Ernest sort of.
You got a title lined up?
Oh my goodness.
Because I got one. If you,
I
can
do
float.
Oh, I think I got
Please.
one too. Let's go.
Ernest sleeps with the fishes.
Oh, I was gonna say Ernest gets made.
Hey, that makes sense. Just him like misunderstanding mafia talk is pretty
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. What is a gabagool? Should I share some of the Ernest movies they did scrap?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Okay. So according to a 2011 interview with Coke Sam's, one film that got very close to the film treatment was Ernest Spaced Out.
Damn it. I was going to try to throw out, let me guess, one with space.
Yep. And it said believed it was kind of a Lost in Space type epic, which like Ernest in Space, he'd be very kind of like,
Rocket Man.
yeah, a little bit, right?
There's speculation among some that was originally like meant for Ernest.
Hey.
And they just put Harlan Williams in there.
really?
Yeah, people have denied it, but it definitely, and I say people who, I don't know,
Mhm.
probably the people who wrote it.
Mhm.
But it very much feels like here's this, I think he's even a janitor. I think he's,
I think you're right.
I just remember that movie's pretty funny. And
Yeah.
I just remember the bit of him not being able to sleep in the cryo sleep and using all the food to make a masterpiece on the wall, and it's like the Sistine Chapel of like him and a monkey with all the like squeeze tube food is across the wall. That movie's funny.
Can't remember
He
watching.
farts in his spacesuit, Tom.
I know. I remember the commercial.
And he has to squeeze it so it doesn't come to his side of the spacesuit.
I remember the
And
trailer.
it gets big because of the fart.
Yeah. Moving on. So Ernest the Bellhop was another one.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of makes me think of like the Jerry Lewis movie.
Yes.
Ernest in Paradise, which there's no description as to what that means.
I feel like that would be like he's at a resort and somehow I don't know if I picture this, they wouldn't do this, but I was picturing like somehow he gets caught up in like they want to use him as the sacrifice to the volcano or something, you know.
Which is funny because then the next one that they said they had a script written was called Ernest and the Voodoo Curse.
Oh, I am
That's
kind
a
of
Bayou movie. Snap me up.
It said, according to Coke Sam's, we went back to the Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein kind of thing. It had a really bad guy, and it happened on an island like Hawaii. So we had a voodoo and a high priest. It was like the idiot version of Raiders of the Lost Ark. We had lines of zombies, voodoo potions, and Ernest pretending to be a zombie. Ernest and the Voodoo Curse was actually pretty funny. There was a woman in it who had one blue eye and one brown eye.
Wow. No, actually sounds good. I'd like
yeah.
I
Just a
would like
weird
to
thing to
see.
try and sell the comedy.
Yes.
Hey, two different color eyes.
Yeah, like
Are you implying something else?
I don't know. But yeah, it sounded. It kind of has like I keep hating that we keep throwing it to other movies, but something with like a similar budget.
Oh,
makes
yeah.
me think of like Weekend at Bernie's too.
Oh,
where they're
sure.
just like. They're literally bringing Bernie's corpse back with like a voodoo curse.
You could see like sort of like when Ernest goes to sleep, right? There's some sort of voodoo curse that he gets up and he's like sleepwalking sort of in that Bernie sort of way, causing like
I thought you were pitching another movie. Ernest Goes to Sleep.
that's like, what is that? There's like a Family Guy joke, like Peter Griffin is at the video store. He looks at one title, it's like Ernest Goes to the Beach, and the other one is Ernest Does Not Go to the Beach. He's trying to figure out which one to watch.
There was a lot of good Ernest bits on early Family Guy, if I recall.
Yeah,
I guess.
Simpsons too. The Simpsons had a few different Ernest gags, and then Jim Varney guested as Cooter, I think. On
Yeah, he was like a dad from like a circus, right? When they have like
Yeah.
a dad and the son from the or like the carnival, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're carnies, and then they
Yeah.
like trick them into like losing their house or whatever.
Yeah, I thought like you mentioned the Abbott and Costello meet the Wolfman or whatever. That's something I kind of was thinking when I was watching these, thinking about these, just kind of like the taking like a staple of cinema and just tossing Ernest over. It usually works out pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a really good, like, that is like, had Ernest Scared Stupid like hit more, that's like, great. Let's have him run into Dracula. Let's have him, what happens when he sees Frankenstein, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Or Frankenstein's monster, excuse me. That's crazy.
Also, I think you mentioned the charity thing where it was playing with the adult themes, and I don't want to be like tarnishing because I don't think the character ever should be like a mature character, but I think there would have been comedy minded. They mind the comedy.
Mind comedy.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, they would
Like MINED.
Yes, mind comedy out of him in adult situations. I think the character still needs to be true to himself and what he had been, but I think that juxtaposition would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Probably a little hit or miss in the 90s of what we would be getting.
You can see online an edit, a deleted scene from Ernest Goes to Jail, where because they think he's Nash, and Nash, is like the bad guy, and it's set up where Nash is getting a conjugal visit.
Mm.
And that's actually a deleted scene where they're dragging Ernest into there. And that, to me, this is interesting. Just real quick with Ernest Goes to Jail. Like, I remember recording it off of television, and there were scenes that I had never seen before.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on? And it was just like they needed to fill time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just had, and that stuff you can see it on YouTube, but it was never officially released in any capacity. You know,
Mhm.
so many of like there are Blu-rays of Camp, Jail, and Scared Stupid. Like, for whatever reason, Disney has allowed, you know, the Blu-rays, like they've let other places put these out, but they've never let Christmas. And I feel like because they know, like, oh,
They
that,
know once
they-
a
yeah.
year people are coming back for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I had some coulda, woulda, shouldas that were
Yeah.
more out of the box,
Yeah.
less directly related. Kind of a great companion piece that I watched last night before bed as like a comfort cool down was I threw on Raising Arizona.
Mhm.
And I really feel like Jim Varney would have been great in an early Coens movie.
Oh yeah.
So that's just like a general Varney coulda, woulda, shoulda. The other thing, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff. I know we're potentially getting a Kickstarter documentary, but just kind of that early Ernest and the Ernest movies, I think some sort of biopic-y thing would be good. And I don't want we're about to get like this Michael Jackson I don't want that.
right.
But I think you could really like mine a certain period of his life and really focus on one thing. And I feel you gotta have Simon Rex play him.
That's a good choice. A lot of people would say John Cena. A lot of people feel John Cena is very Jim Varney-esque.
I mean, if he could bulk down, I guess.
Right, yeah. But Simon Rex, that's a good pull, like, for
Like,
sure.
like Simon
Yeah.
Rex in Red Rocket is like the R-rated like porn star version of Jim Varney.
I mean, yeah, there is some people that I feel like if it had been like 20 years ago, John C. Reilly, I feel like could have done a
Sure.
crazy Ernest. Just thinking of his character from Jim and Eric, or yeah.
Rule.
Oh yeah, Steve Rule, like Rules. I don't know. He's just kind of got that like young kind of
Yeah.
But and then everybody went like, no, Will Ferrell, and like he wouldn't have done justice. Should we talk about like the potential reboot before we talk about the documentary Kickstarter?
Yeah.
That in October 2012, a reboot was announced tentatively titled Son of Ernest, following Ernest's long lost son. Dan Ewan was set to write the script with John Cherry, Coke Sams, and Clark Gallivan set to produce for Ruckus Film. A Kentucky-based comedian named Billy Crank, who had often cosplayed at Ernest, was unofficially anointed by John Cherry himself to take over the role of Ernest's son in the film. The project was ultimately scrapped September of 2013.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have opinions.
Yeah, sure.
And I will say, like, no disrespect to Billy Crank, because what I've seen him do, like, he is a talented guy, and I really like that. Like, some of the stuff I've seen is him doing his own characters and stuff, and I totally understand the opportunity of like, yeah, like I would love to be, you know, the next Ernest, or like I think they call him like Ernie Jr. or something, you know.
Mhm.
But before that, like I remember and it's hard to find online. They've kind of scrubbed it clean of there's another guy, like after Jim Varney passed away, Cardin and Cherry used this other random guy and they put him in the Ernest costume, and he did a few commercials, and it was just people rejected it. And it's like, who is this guy? And the weird thing is I could be misremembering, but it seemed like it was like a 50-year-old guy, like that they just, you know, stuck in there. And then they tried doing a couple like animated commercials, because, you know, Cardin and Cherry like still owned the character.
Yeah.
And it just didn't take off. It didn't work. People, of course, rejected it because it's just like, no. Because in my personal opinion, Jim Varney was Ernest. Like, there's just no replacing that. It's like, you know, no one should play like Ace Ventura. No one should be another Pee-wee, right?
Right.
It's just like that's who that was.
Was there an Ace Ventura Jr.? Am I remembering that
You
right?
are correct.
Little kid.
Yeah.
I should have had that role. Just a chubby little kid.
But like,
I was looking at that comedian, and he also has a striking resemblance, I will say.
Yes, he does.
But does look like Ernest Light, Lite.
and again, like it's because I remember they held like the next Ernest competition, like on, I think it was on YouTube, maybe Facebook or something like that. But there was like be the next Ernest, and people submitted, and Billy Crank was one of those people.
Mhm.
And he did do a nice job of recreating some of like the scenes and stuff. But to me, again, it was just kind of like, don't do this, right? And maybe this is like too far off, but I thought like if they were like, we really want to like continue milking the Ernest train, because you milk trains, like it would be like have him have a daughter then, right? Because it's just like that's going to be different enough than just someone looking like they're doing an Ernest impression. Because that's the worry I had with Billy Crank, and again, talented guy, but are you just sort of doing a Jim Varney impression? Because if so, like it's just not going to land, in my opinion. You know?
Right.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of who should play Ernest's daughter. I don't know her name, but there's that one comedian who's very fun on SNL right now, who's got the short curly hair. I wish I knew her name. She's very out there.
Oh, Sarah Sherman.
I think so.
That's right. Yeah.
Sarah Squirm.
I did. That's it.
Yeah.
I typed in Simon Rex and then the letter J, and you'll never believe what autocorrect Jim Varney. And the first is, are we sure Simon Rex isn't related to Jim Varney? r/blankies.
Was that a post by you?
No. I am not on the blank check Reddit. I'm not on any Reddits, but yeah, I'm looking at these pictures and I really feel like I wouldn't want him to do an Ernest movie.
Yeah.
But if they were doing kind of like those
Jim
early
Varney
days,
story,
Jim
yeah.
Varney story, I would love that.
Yeah.
Get like the Blackberry guy to do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The guy who did
Nirvana the band.
Nirvana the
movie.
band, the show, the movie. Oh, it's hilarious. Great stuff. But we should talk a little about that Kickstarter that you mentioned.
Yes, please do.
Oh yeah. So both Kickstarters, as far as I know, are fully funded, and one of them is like the Jim Varney documentary, and I think they started that. What did I say? 2021.
Yes.
I think so. It's been a little while, but they also had to they had COVID setbacks and everything, and they're trying to interview as many people as possible, and it is a smaller budget. And I actually reached out. I emailed the director because they were like, hey, if you can help us out in any way, we need camera people, we need like help with like shifting through like editing old footage and all this. And I reached out, but like I have no equipment. I can't. So he was super nice, and he's like, awesome that you want to help, but your skills, like I don't. Yeah, I just there's no way. It's like I've not operated like a camera, and I was just like, oh, that was kind of foolish.
That's all right.
Like, oh, I can help. I can, but I'm excited about it. I backed it, and they are putting it together as far as I know. So that's something to keep an eye on. I don't know enough about like Kickstarter. Like when something's fully funded and it's been gone for a while, like can you still purchase it? Maybe, but if you go to Kickstarter and look up Jim Varney, you'll see that. And there's also they in conjunction with John Cherry and then Justin Lloyd, like the estate of Jim Varney, they're making a graphic novel.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it's just like it's based on like an original screenplay, and it's it involves like his character Dr. Otto, which was something he did. Look up Dr. Otto. That's I could launch into it, but it was an evil character that Jim Varney did.
No,
that was very fun. So that's I'm trying to think what. I'm blanking on the Dreamstone, Ernest and the Dreamstone.
Oh, interesting.
I
Good
think.
title.
Yeah. And they've released some of the artwork and stuff, and it
Ernest and the
looks
Dreamstone. Hmm.
good. Yeah. So like, I'm sure there's ways to buy that and support that. Being a Kickstarter backer of it, like they share like some of the artwork and stuff they're doing. So I think it's still a little bit away. Like I don't think it's super soon that it's coming out, but I'm very excited because it's all the people who, uh, John Cherry and his estate, because his son, and then Justin Lloyd. Like it looks like it's very lovingly being made by fans and
That's
everything.
great.
So yeah.
Awesome. Then we have what, Ernest Day at Montgomery
Oh.
Bell State Park.
Forgot. Yes. Isn't that awesome? Like, so
Yeah.
back in like 2017, they were like Montgomery Bell State Park, where they filmed Ernest Goes to Camp. They're like, hey, it's the 30th anniversary. Let's have like an Ernest Day. And they got, at the time, John Cherry to come out. They had a variety of people associated with the movie, and a costume contest, and
Nice.
it events to happen at the camp, and then it all culminated in a screening of the movie, like outside and everything. They had props from the movie on display. I think they might have a case like year round
Oh,
displaying some of the
that's
props
cool.
that they
that was
have,
very cool.
like when he gets hit in the face with the a lunch tray, and it
Mhm.
takes on his hat and face form. So they've been doing it because it was a success, brought a lot of people out. So I'm not sure if they've done it every year since 2017, but I know they made it like an annual thing, which would imply. But this year, it's June 13th, I do believe, right? And I have never been able to go because it always lands on something like I have to work or there's other obligations. So fingers crossed. I'm really hoping that I get to go this year.
Well, you need to report
Yeah.
back if you make
Yes.
it, 'cause then we will definitely give it a shout
13th?
out. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
June 13th. You're going to plan to go?
I think I'm a little busy that night.
June 13th.
June 13th.
What night is that?
I don't know. I might have something going on.
Mm.
Oh, maybe something you're going to call out shortly?
Maybe. Maybe.
Oh, I know what June 13th is now. Man, I have a plug for that. But no, that's really cool. I definitely would be curious to hear more about.
Yeah, that's got to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What that would actually be like. Yeah.
It's and I can break out this outfit again, which is nice.
Hell yeah.
You got to win the costume contest.
Yeah. It just sits in my closet, and it's just fun. Like anytime,
Mhm.
every morning I get up and I, choose what to wear, and there's just Ernest stuff hanging.
I love
there.
that.
It's a nice little, brings a smile to my face for sure.
I think Ernest brings a smile to
Yeah.
our face. Should we maybe talk about our favorite movies / moments from the Ernest movies? Get to our power ranking segments.
Mhm.
Mike, do you want to do the honors? of
I
kicking
would
us
love
off.
to.
Give us your top 3 Ernest movies if you had to rank them.
So I thought a lot about this because the original 4 I
Mhm.
love, and I always say that there's an Ernest movie for every season. So I look at it like, okay, you have summer, you have Ernest Goes to Camp, you get into fall, and then great, you've got Ernest Scared Stupid. Obviously, the winter, Ernest Saves Christmas. And then in the spring, you have Ernest Goes to Jail because he is sprung.
There you go.
A little bit of a stretch on that last one, but
That's a good one, though.
it's I think like I would have to say that it's Ernest Goes to Camp. I feel like has to be like in there because it's the very first movie, and then I think Jail and Scared Stupid are right there. Like it oscillates between the two. Which one's my favorite? Because
Yeah.
like I was saying, Jail throws so much at it, and it's just sort of like. I think because the kids aren't there, they can do some things that they normally wouldn't do in those other movies. And like Ernest Scared Stupid has like those, it's not the scariest thing, but it has a very different tone than the other
Yeah.
ones. And as much as I love Ernest Saves Christmas, I feel like that being the Christmas classic, like it's like, okay, that one has just because of the specificity of Christmas. I'm gonna put that one aside because I can only pick 3.
Sure.
But I would say those 4 are if you only watch, like some Ernest, I would say like Ernest Scared Stupid,
Mhm.
Ernest Goes to Jail would be the two that just like encapsulate like just the comedy, the talent. Both of those really showcase Jim Varney's range
Yeah.
a little more so than the other two. Like Ernest Goes to Camp allows Varney to show some range in his acting. He gets to be a little more serious, a little more dramatic at moments. But those other two like really tap into the comedy. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's my ranking.
Nice. Those are good picks, and I think very representative of the series.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fred, what about you?
I think number 3. I really love the French classic Ernest and Celeste. I had to get one more, the only other one I knew. So I think I've seen exactly 3, or at least 3 I can speak to. I am putting Scared Stupid at number 3 for personal reasons.
Ooh.
And I can bring it up now because I'm a salty dog.
Ooh.
When I was in college, I had my first podcast
Mm.
called Hold Up, Throw Down. The premise was we would watch like family and children's movies, but not Disney on the nose ones, and decide if they held up or if they threw down. And we had a guest lined up who will remain nameless to watch Scared Stupid. And at the time, our format was like going through the whole movie, which is not the way to watch an Ernest movie, really step by step,
Right.
writing everything down. I did all that, and the person canceled right before we recorded and ghosted us. I never heard from this person again.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever think that maybe he was turned into a little wooden doll?
No.
They're pretty active on socials to
So troll didn't get
no, unless they're doing a different type of trolling.
Oh,
They trolled me. No, I think I do actually kind of like that movie because it's also trafficking in that like Halloween Town,
Yeah.
like Disney Channel original movie meets Ernest.
Yes.
Mhm.
For
I think
sure.
you get that the most out of this one. And then number 2, I'll put Ernest Saves Christmas because I am just a Christmas person. I'm
it's
like,
great.
I'll watch, and I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I find it enjoyable. I'll watch any dog shit if it's a Christmas movie, and if that tree ups, I'm like, I'm pretty good. This cookie's tasty. Like I'm pretty easy, but I do like I've watched that multiple times, and that is one I'm happy to throw on at the holidays.
Sure.
I think Santa and Ernest interacting like that.
Oh,
that's
it's
good
great.
stuff.
Yeah.
And then number 1, because, and it has been a long time since I've seen it, but I do remember it being zany. The Ernest Goes to Jail,
Yeah.
the dark Ernest being a little spookier, the lightning bolts, just the jail vibe. And also the having that How This Get Made episode, a show that kind of mildly influences my interest in podcasts. I think
Sure.
they work hand in hand, making this my number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Nice. Bravo.
Very nice. Very nice.
One thing, and I'm so sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah,
like
no, you're fine.
Bruce Artson, I hope I'm saying that right, did like music for the Ernest movies. And when you're saying that, like, I think Ernest Goes to Jail has such a fun opening that almost in and of itself like launches it
Mhm.
even higher. So yeah, sorry.
No. That's. I think we can only talk about so much sometimes, so it's always
Yeah.
good to jump in with like extra things. Be like, because the music is like, it did give that vibe. I think that's why I kind of pegged it. I was like, oh, this reminds me of like all these other movies I watched in
yeah.
the early '90s had that kind of same sort of score. Like we talked about Dennis the Menace, it kind of had like I've only watched Ernest Scared Stupid, so I can't do a power ranking.
We want your 3 best moments, though.
I mean, my best moments are, I think, one, watching Rimshot Drive. Ernest is trying to
Yeah.
fend off the troll. It's pretty great. I do kind of love his bit, and like he did a lot. He did bits at like a mile a minute, but him doing the bowling bit where he's like Ernest is standing up to the lane, and he's like doing this very quiet thing as there's just chaos going on around him, and then he throws the ball up in the air. It goes through a basketball hoop, and it doesn't even hit any of the trolls. It hits some random guy. That's like a neighbor that came to help, and it was my one laugh out loud because I was like, why did I expect him to actually bowl?
Right.
Well, I knew that this wasn't going to happen. And then there's another moment where a troll comes up and screams at Eartha Kitt, and she screams back, and the troll just runs away.
Yeah.
And it was just these moments just stuck with me, and I was like, you know what? I will not say I had low expectations going in, because I think with Ernest, you kind of know it's slapstick, it's kind of dumb sometimes, but it's dumb humor,
Yeah.
and I love dumb humor. And so I was just came out of it, and I was like, you know what? I had a good time.
Yeah.
And I just that's all that matters. And I think that's maybe the one credit I can give to this series. And one of the things I wanted to talk about early on, we didn't really talk about now, but maybe it's gonna be our closing thought, is like, does Ernest hold up? You need to hold up or throw down.
Hey,
And,
used it.
Does I'm so sorry. But I guess, yeah, do we feel like Ernest even today still is like, does he resonate?
Yeah, as a Ernest fan, I will say, like, if you take, and this is just my opinion, the first 4 movies, right? I feel like they will hold up. I feel like they have enough budget behind it. I think the performance is still fun. I think like the situations, not necessarily relatable, but like are interesting. My friend, he also does comedy sports, Ben Sharf. He has a son, and he showed his son one of the Ernest movies, and I think it was Ernest Saves Christmas, I believe, and he loved it. He laughed, and he was like, "Dad, do you think they ever made any more Ernest movies?" He's like, "Oh, I got some good news for you." And this was,
To be exact.
he was maybe like 7 or 8 at the time. So to me, like, that's sort of the proof in the pudding kind of thing. Like, if you have kids who are, shown this, because that's the biggest issue, is like, how do they access this?
Right.
Because yes, it's like free, on YouTube or Tubi and these other places, but as much as I think like, oh, that's an intriguing poster, if you just see some random guy making a face, you might not like click and watch it. So yeah, I personally think the first 4 hold up.
Sure.
I will say after Rise Again, it gets a little dicey,
Sure.
especially the longer you go.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I don't know. You think anything like about how your re-experiences went?
No, I would agree with that. I am kind of sad that these aren't just on Disney Plus, because that has been like, my girlfriend and I are like, our like at night watches are like Disney Channel original movies.
Great.
And like threw on Kid in King Arthur's Court the other day and
Oh, yeah.
watched that whole dang thing. Daniel Craig and Kate Winslet are in that movie.
Whoa,
Wow.
I did not know
I
that.
Yeah.
think I remember Kate Winslet being in it, but not Daniel Craig. That's
Yep. And Hans from Mighty Ducks is the king.
Oh,
So like
yeah.
I stayed up and watched the whole dang thing. But so it would be nice. Like, I would watch camp if it was more accessible, and I still might one day, just because I am curious, because I feel like I'm curious to see the right out at the gate. Not comedy wise, but maybe just resource wise, the one they're putting a little bit at, even though I know the budgets went up, it still feels like they're probably putting a lot more focus into that one. I
Yeah.
would think. I think they're trying to make that one probably more accessible, I would assume.
Sure.
You would hope so. at least.
Yeah, it used to be like on Hulu, so maybe, but I feel like they're like just like nope. And I'm one of these because I'm such a Varney fan. Like the fact that he did Ernest and he did Slinky Dog, and it was Atlanta. There was another one like he played a cook, like he did a voice for a Disney movie. I think it does Atlantis or something like that.
Oh yeah, he's in Atlantis.
Yeah.
When you said Atlanta, I was like, the Donald Glover show.
You've been great in that show.
But yeah, he's in Atlantis.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I feel like those 3 things, like specifically Slinky Dog and Ernest, like he should be like Disney legend status. Like they should bring him into that.
Yeah, I had a Pixar shirt that is literally just like characters in a grid, and I just assumed Slinky Dog was on it, and I was gonna wear it today, and I grabbed and I'm looking at it, I'm like, what the hell? Where's Slinky Dog?
Oh, no.
Dog was like my favorite side. Like, I was a big Toy Story kid. But
Yeah.
That was my favorite. After Woody and Buzz, it was Slinky Dog. I
Yeah.
had a Slinky Dog.
Oh, nice.
I remember he had like a weird string on his neck that I think you could like put a leash on or something. And I cut it off because I was like, not movie accurate. But yeah.
Yeah, I do think the Ernest movies themselves hold up because they are just completely accessible. It's like you said, if a friend or anybody shows their kids these movies, I think they're gonna have fun with them because
Yeah.
they're just kids movies, right? At the very heart, and Ernest is very innocent. He's pure of heart, as he describes himself, and I think he is. He's just a kid at heart, and he's out there altruistic. I think is also his thing, as much as he is a big old goof.
Yeah.
I think that's always the key to, I'm gonna just say broadly, big dumb characters to have a heart of gold. Like I think in performing, I always keep that in mind, and like watching stuff, I keep that in mind. So I think that's why Ernest is, palpable and likable, is because he's good-hearted.
Yeah, I am concerned that people are not going to recognize the character of Ernest, though. If not already, then soon.
Yeah.
And it's kind of it's like Looney Tunes. Like even some kids are like, "What are the Looney Tunes?" And it's like, what? It's like
You can't watch them all on Max.
I mean,
That was a joke. They took them off.
Yeah.
yeah, maybe we'll get that Wile E. Coyote movie one day.
Yeah, they're
It's
supposed
coming.
to be.
It's
It's
coming.
coming.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
If
So-
you're in line for the Wile E. Coyote movie, stay in line.
it's a great place.
One of the, like, when you said that, like, and this speaks to like Jim Varney's character very much so, is like he did so much, like, for, I don't know if it was exactly Make-A-Wish, but those things of like sick kids, he would always go to the hospital as Ernest. If he couldn't make it, he would call them. And so those kind of things, like, you didn't hear about it a lot, like in the news or anything, but he knew how much he meant to kids, and he would go out of his way to interact and be there. And I just think, like, that's another reason I find that I admire him, just like, not only was he very talented, not only did he seem like a good person, it's just like, oh, there's proof
Yeah,
that he was.
he was just a good dude at heart.
Yeah.
I think that's a great place for us to end this episode and just say, yeah, rest in peace, Jim Varney. It was
Yes.
a great legacy, I think, all the same. But before we go, is there anything you would like to plug, Mike?
Oh, I will plug that. I do a couple different shows that I produce myself. You can follow me on Instagram at Kauth Shows. So that's at KAUTH SHOWS. Kauth Shows on Instagram. The second Friday of every month, I do a show, and upcoming April 10th. I was about to say 13th because we were talking June 13th. April 10th is a show called Hoopla, and it's like a storytelling long form show. So we have a storyteller. Our guest is Tim Higgins, who's very much a legend in the Milwaukee area as far as improvisers. And
The white whale.
Yeah.
White whale. No, I'm sure if I asked him, he would do it.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now, we're always like, we're going to get him on.
But he's going to be our storyteller, and hopefully he'll do some improv with us too. And then after that, I do another show called Your Shitty Week, and we talk to the audience, and they give us the stuff that frustrated them, that they didn't, annoyed them during the week, things that they want to get off their chest. So it's a bit of a cathartic show. I talk to the audience, they share their experiences, and then we do improv based off of that. So I kind of rotate every other month between those two shows. And sometimes other shows pop up too that I'll do. In August, I'm doing Patrick Schmitz's the comedy of the Wizard of Oz, kind
Hell
of
yeah.
sort of.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
So I'm excited to be a part of that. So yeah, follow me on Instagram. And thank you so much for letting me do this, guys. This was great. I got so excited to talk Ernest.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you taking time out to come and talk
Yeah,
to us.
well, you guys are
Glad
great.
You got to talk to about something you love.
Yeah.
Yep. And I loved coming to see Your Shitty Week. That was a great show. And I love those kind of sort of shows. So I'm excited
Oh,
to
yeah.
see them do Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
Right, anything you want to plug before we go? I know you already brought up June 13th.
June 13th. I've got a few things to plug. 4:30, the Interchange is now doing Thursday shows, and I have a show called Improv the Movie. So if you like movies, you like big blockbusters, come to that show. That's gonna be great. We're gonna have Rivertown opening for us, and then a month later, exactly, maybe a month and a day. I believe it's 5:30 or 5:31. I'll put deets up. We're doing another pilot season, and I'm writing and directing a segment of sketches. So that will be exciting. And then, of course, June 13th, I think we would call it our Father's Day show.
Oh, I think so. Is it Father's Day weekend that week?
I think the following weekend was
Oh,
Father's
yeah,
Day.
yeah. Which, yeah, so father figures will ride again that weekend. We'll be
Mm-hmm.
Fred and I will be back on stage together, and it'll be a great time. But yeah, please go check out Kauth shows. Obviously, Schmitz and Giggles does great stuff. You can find more information, so they can find you on Instagram, right? Kauth shows.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
and I didn't say it. All the shows I do are at Comedy Sports in their Farina Arena, their side theater.
Yeah,
So-
great space, great space. And then interchangetheater.com for Fred's shows.
Yes, I'll be putting more stuff on my socials as we get closer. It's right now in the casting and writing and all that phase. So everything's like a little cluttered in my mind, but soon I'll be in like the promoting phase of it.
Perfect. Well, keep an eye out for that, and we'll promote more on our Instagram. I can definitely use it a bit more. If you enjoy the show, please remember to rate and review this episode. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube. Join our Patreon just for $1 a month for this month only. And then next month, it's bumping up to $2. You can get exclusive bonus episode this month. We are going to be doing the K-pop Demon Hunters McDonald's menu. That should be a lot of fun.
I'm actually looking forward to it. I saw a breakfast sandwich that I'm most excited
I know.
about.
I'm like, I think we might actually go twice because you had to get the breakfast and the dinner.
Yeah. Although I'm not my mild spoiler and I won't say anything else because I don't remember what's in it. The dessert aspect, I'm like, everything else looks pretty good on that K-pop.
I mean,
menu.
it does look good.
I think if you time it right, you go through the drive-through right before they change over
Oh.
breakfast,
Ooh.
and just go around.
And they go around again and get the lunch.
Yep.
Dude, I'm gonna pay for the guy behind me.
And you're like, hey, it's me. Special thanks to Nick Spitza and Mike Schwantz for opening and closing theme songs. And then stay tuned for our next main feed episode. We'll be talking about the Chocolate Factory.
Who can make us sunshine? Fill it up with dew. Those are not the words. Put it in a sandwich and take a bite or two. The Chocolate Factory.
I'd watching how surprised you were by the words.
There's this revelation across his face. Like he's like, oh shit, I don't know the lyrics.
These aren't the right words, but I'm kind of killing it right now.
Yeah. This should be a great time. We will see you guys next time.
Goodbye.
Thanks.
Bye.
I've got no cares, cause all I wanna do is charge my phone and drive listening to you. And what they talk about will always be up to you.
I was early.